Hello everyone, my name is Kayla Carter and this is my Technology Infused Assessment module for Beep4306. Part 1 is before I took this course, my perceptions about teaching English language learners before taking this course. So before the semester started, my perceptions were that English language learners would need more individual help from their teachers in the classroom. I was planning to have to spend more one-on-one time with them because their parents cannot help them at home. My thoughts were that the ELL parents may not be able to help their students, one, because they might not have the adequate knowledge, and two, because they do not know what the student is learning because they are new to this country. So this brings me to part 2, which is my common misconceptions of, I compiled a list of 5 common misconceptions that I had before taking this course. So conception number 1 is that all ELLs are immigrants. This is false. In 2012, the Office of English Language Acquisition published a fun fact profile for ELLs. It showed that a fact on the second page said that 57% of ELLs were born in the United States. That's more than half of ELLs in the United States. My conception number 2 is that English language learners' parents do not speak English. This is false. Professor Trevino said in a lecture from week 2 that 25% of children were raised in homes where English is the language being used. ELLs suffer when their language at home is not spoken in their L1 or their native language. Some homes speak in code switching. That is when L1 language is mixed up with L2. ELLs are fluent in their native language. This is false. Jim Cummins' threshold hypothesis explains for students to achieve linguistic cognitive advantages, they need to be proficient in L1 and L2. Students do not come to school proficient in L1. There is an interdependence between L1 and L2 strategies that work on the full development of L1 before L2 will see a higher academic result. Language development is a lifelong acquisition, so ELLs do not come to school fluent in their native language. Number 4, social English proficiency is the same as academic English proficiency. This is false. Social English proficiency is also known as BICS. It's a social communication where there is little academic demand. This is often confused to be English proficient. ELLs reach English proficiency when they reach cognitive academic language proficiency, or CALP. This is their academic language for school. Number 5, using their native language at school will keep them from acquiring English language proficiency. This is false. James Crawford said that if native language instruction is used to make lessons meaningful, they will learn more English and more subject matter too. Students will not succeed in a sink or swim situation. Students cannot learn if they do not understand the language in which the content is being taught. By teaching them with scaffolds in their native language, the ELLs will be able to apply the instruction being taught in L1 and apply it to the acquisition of L2. So this brings me to part 3, which is after taking the course. 5 concepts I've learned in the course. Learning these concepts has given me a better understanding of the needs for ELLs in the classroom. I have learned that number 1, ELLs will excel in the classroom if we continue their L1 acquisition while working on their English CALP vocabulary. So Thomas and Collier were the first to propose the concept to teach with a concept model that illustrates the interdependence of the social, cultural, linguistic, academic, and cognitive process simultaneously. This is called the PRISM model. With this concept, I can work with my students with all of the language acquisition with meaningful lessons that students can relate to in school and in real life with all students' cultures. Students will use L1 plus L2 to succeed in my classroom because I will demonstrate vocabulary can have more than one meaning and urge students to offer bilingual support to one another. Concept number 2 is best helps ELLs by providing ELLs with visuals, and gives them a chance to work with items or images to master academic vocabulary by also providing students with a scaffold. Teachers can also pre-teach new vocabulary or phrases that will be used in an upcoming lesson. Page 303 of our textbook illustrates how graphic organizers can help students associate the meaning of new words with related words that they already know. Concept 3 is how teachers correct the errors of ELLs. The best conceptual approach is to model the correct way you want the students to find the solution to the question, instead of just explaining the correct answer. By giving the students a chance to think about how to come to the approach themselves, it will allow for the students to get a deeper understanding. This example I got from a Scholar article online, and this is where we as the teachers asked the students to translate the following sentence from Spanish to English. Yo escribo con el lápiz. So the student will write down, I write with the pencil. And the teacher will say, that is correct. Notice that the preposition corresponds to the English and it appears in the same position in the sentence as it does in Spanish. And we refer to the English word with to the Spanish word con in the sentence. This is a good foundation for them. And then concept 4 is the cognitive apprentice model. And this is where the teacher acts like a craftsman and shares their knowledge to the students as if they were apprentices, as they carried out a meaningful science or mathematic activities together. This works best with peer collaboration. In a group discussion, a teacher can first build off of what the students already know and then talk about how they solved the problem. Discuss the approaches they took to solve the answer and discuss what worked and what didn't. Concept 5 is just the cooperative learning. I want to share with my class. Cooperative learning with groups with native speakers of different languages enlist higher level of learning. Cooperative learning has many benefits for ELLs. It builds their self-esteem while supporting interaction amongst peers. Integrated language with content instruction and gives students an active role in their learning. This was from page 102 of our textbook. Which brings me to part 4. Part 4 goes over the do's and don'ts for teaching. I've done some research and I found a great resource for teachers. So this came from www.edtopia.org, and this offers. Well, first, from Chapter 3 of our textbook, it offers factors to consider when teaching ELLs. ELL teachers have ethnically different understandings than English native-speaking teachers, and English native-speaking teachers do not recognize or value. Achievement assessments should be age and English level proficiency appropriate. Teach all students content that matters and relates to their real-life experiences, and or content that interests them. Teachers need to gather a better understanding of all the students' cultural differences each year to accommodate the students' learning styles. I've done some research, as you've already know, and then some principles I got from our textbook were addressing the cognitive, academic, advanced, and basic learning goals for all students. The more diverse the classroom, the more it is important that the teachers relate the content to the child's environment. Students must be able to apply what they've learned to skills they can use at home, in the community, as well as at school. Actively engage students to participate in the classroom and give them the opportunity to apply creativity in meaningful ways. So a do that I got from this website for modeling is do model students what they are expected to do or produce, especially for new skills or activities, by explaining and demonstrating the learning actions, sharing your thinking process aloud, and showing good teachers and students work samples. Modeling promotes learning and motivation, as well as increasing students' self-confidence. They will have a stronger belief that they can accomplish their learning task if they follow the steps that were demonstrated. The guy who did all this, that I got this information from, is Larry Ferlazzo. He also said, don't just tell students what to do and expect them to do it. I related this to like an old school teacher who teaches in like a drill sergeant manner. No one likes a drill sergeant. Now for the rate of speech and wait time, do speak slowly and clearly and provide students with enough time to formulate their response. Whether in speaking or writing, remember that they are thinking and producing in 2 or more languages. After asking a question, wait a few seconds before calling on someone to respond. This wait time provides all students with an opportunity to think and process and give especially ELLs a needed period to formulate a response. So don't speak too fast as if and tell the students they didn't understand what you said. Never ever repeat the same thing in a louder tone or a louder voice. So basically do the opposite of what I'm doing on here on this screencast. So for the use of non-linguistic cues, do use visuals, sketches, gestures, annotations, and other nonverbal cues to make both language and content more accessible to students. Teaching with the visual representations of concepts can be hugely helpful to help ELLs. Don't just stand in front of the classroom and lecture them and rely on the textbook as their only visual aid. Giving instructions. Do give verbal and written instructions. This practice can help all learners, especially ELLs. In addition, it is far easier for a teacher to point on the board in response to the inevitable repeated question, "What are we supposed to do?" Don't act surprised if your student is lost when you haven't clearly written and explained a step-by-step directions. Check for understanding. Do regularly check that the students are understanding the lesson. After an explanation or a lesson, a teacher could say, "Hey, please put your thumbs up, down, or sideways to let me know if this is clear. And if it's perfectly fine if you don't understand or if you're unsure. I just need to know." This last phrase is essential if you want students to respond honestly. Teachers can also have students quickly answer on a post-it and then place it on their desk. The teacher can quickly then circulate to their responses. So when teachers regularly check for understanding in the classroom, teachers become increasingly aware and monitoring their own understanding, which serves as a model of good study skills. It also helps ensure that students are learning, thinking, understanding, comprehending, and processing at high levels. So don't just simply ask, are there any questions? This is not an effective way to gauge what all the students are thinking. Waiting until the end of class to see what people have written in their learning logs is not going to provide a timely feedback. Also, don't just assume that the students understand because they're smiling and nodding their heads. Sometimes they're just being polite. So do encourage students to continue building their literacy skills in their home language, also known as L1. Research has found that learning to read in the home language promotes reading achievement in the second language, as transfer occurs. This transfer may include prolonged awareness, comprehension skills, and background knowledge. While research on transfer of L1 skills and L2 cannot be denied, it doesn't mean that it should not be encouraged. The ELLs to use English in the inside and outside the classroom. So don't ban the students for using their native language in the classroom. Forbidding students to use their primary language does not promote a positive learning environment, where students feel safe to take risks and make mistakes. This practice can be harmful to the relationships between the teachers and the students, especially if the teachers act more like language police and than language coaches. This is certainly not a complete guide. These are just a few of the most basic practices to keep in mind when teaching English language learners, or for that matter, probably any second language learner. What are more do's and don'ts that you would add to the list? And this is it for my presentation. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me. This is my Works Cited page. If you guys have any questions or anything, this is also this Works Cited Continue. If you like the images that you've seen on here, I got them all from Pixabay. And they were free for commercial use with no attribution required, although I did put it on there so you guys could check it out for yourselves. Thank you for your time, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Bye.